I was working with an air manual client recently, helping them to document a particular area of the business that they felt was holding them back from growing. There were mistakes, there were things that took longer than they should, and as a result, if they were going to grow the business, they needed to free up more time for some of their key resources, their assets in the business. The A really interesting thing was that having gone through the process of documenting their checklist and training the team on how to both use Air Manual but also how to document what was in their head as interactive checklists that were easy to follow and that were focused on the outcome and solved some of the big pains that they had. One of the big questions that they had when I asked, okay, we're coming towards the end of this particular session, we've got more, what questions, concerns do you have? And they had to dig a bit, dig deep, but the biggest concern that came out was compliance. To what extent will we make sure that the team will be able to use these checklists going forward, that people will actually do the things we've said that we'd do? And one of the things that I want to highlight and share is that if you want effective team performance, documentation is just one part of that picture. So you can see in this slide that the other parts of it are role clarity, so making sure that everyone knows who's responsible for what. And in this particular client's case, I think they have that in a good shape. Secondly, then you do need documentation. You need the team to be able to easily access onboarding, checklist, training, so that they're empowered to both perform doing the thing that they're meant to do, but also to improve what they're doing over time. And thirdly, you need management. The team members need to be supported along the way. You need to address gaps where needed. And fundamentally, when it comes to sort of compliance, making sure that people are doing the right things, yes, you need role clarity, yes, you need documentation, but ultimately it comes down to management. And I'm reminded of a quote, which is, you get what you tolerate. So if you're a business leader and let's say that one of the processes that you're doing is, I don't know, preparing for an event, or how you follow up with a customer or a prospect or something like that. Let's say that you just make the process optional, or following the checklist optional. If you say, hey, it's there, but hey team, whatever you think is right, you do it your way, then don't be surprised when issues happen, when mistakes are made, when balls are dropped, when people take longer to do things than they perhaps should. Because by making those checklists and those processes optional, you're kind of making success optional. Whereas if you change the expectation, if you make it clear to everyone that we've spent time coming up with the best way of doing a particular task, like following up with a prospect, our expectation is that we now follow this. And if there's a better way of doing it, we should improve the way that we have agreed it. We should improve that checklist. We should make those changes, add those steps, add that clarification, that tip, that warning, whatever it is, so that in future we're more successful with that particular process. Rather than say, oh, well, yeah, that was just, something that we came up with, but if you can do it better, then great. Use that. The team has great creativity, and you will hit problems. You will have moments where you say, oh, why has that person done that? Or, oh, this person hasn't received this particular piece of communication. That is the perfect time to jump on it and ask the question, why didn't it happen? Can we improve our process, our checklists, so that that doesn't happen again? Because ultimately, the time that's taken when mistakes are made, when balls are dropped, when things are just done in a slower way, is so huge versus taking that moment to say, actually, could we just add in a step into our checklist or whatever to make sure this is done better in future? And so that is how you ensure compliance, that you create a culture of not tolerating a deviation and inconsistency. Instead, you're focusing on excellence and continuous improvement. And so if you're a business leader that has perhaps either worked with us or yourself or whatever, you've created some processes, some checklists, I encourage you to make sure that your team understand that the expectation is that they follow those processes and that they identify ways in which those can be improved over time. If you do that, then not only will you get great performance because everyone's doing it in the right way, but you'll be able to rapidly, continuously improve, get addressing issues, doing things faster over time. And ultimately, if you need to make any further changes, it's really easy to do so. So make sure that you've got the role clarity in place, that everyone knows who's responsible for what, that documentation in place, and then make sure that you've got that management, that expectation of what good looks like, and that you're following up with that and keeping people accountable. If you do those things, then you'll have a really high performing team that are able to achieve amazing things and continuously improve.